And welcome in MacGyver Engineering. One more time, today we have a bad review of Einhell leaf shredder. And story short, if you're just looking for an opinion about that machine and what it's worth, I'm telling you right away, it's a waste of time, of your time, money. Well, if you have more money than time, then it's not so bad. But if you have, let's say, if you can afford a better machine, definitely look for something better than this. This is rubbish. This is crap. This is for somebody who doesn't have nothing better to do than fix, equipment, a new equipment. Okay, so going back to, let's say, a year ago when this machine was purchased, about a year ago, I don't remember exactly. It didn't survive the first day, which is in this video later on. I just want to save your, watching a 20 or 30 minute video and give you the conclusion right away. It didn't survive the first day, and I wasn't sure what happened to it until the evening. Until the morning next day, when I just look at the instruction manual and went through all that stuff, and then I realized that yeah, it's my fault. And one could argue, but that was my fault. I fixed it, and it got broken again and again. So it was a row of different faults that occurred. First one definitely was my fault. The other ones, they just come up from the fact how this machine is built. So not to give you all of that, lousy details. Let's focus on my fault first, because this machine is built with about 40% duty cycle, but since companies are not required to let's say put that information directly on the box, they don't. I just need to mention that I have a welder that I inherited from my previous, let's say, a person that was previously employed in that company, and that welder has also 40% duty cycle. The only difference being that when this welder achieves its maximum, it switches off. There is a safety mechanism that saves you any kind of trouble. The welder switches off, and after a couple of minutes you can start it again. This machine, on the other hand, doesn't provide any kind of information about that. Well, there is information over here, but this is definitely not enough to to let you know if it's only on the box, only in a small print, and all the other information is in a big let's say advertisement fashion. So the only mention about that is over here, as I mentioned, right next to the barcode, which could imply some other regional information. And the other place where it's displayed is over here, and it's on the label, and it's also a very small print. 40% it's not written that it's 40% duty cycle. I knew that because I have that kind of education, let's say. So I was able to realize that it was 40% duty cycle without consulting the shop first. The only thing is that it was already too late. The thing is that in the user manual, they tell you that you cannot use it as for a professional use, because that voids your warranty. So you cannot be, first of all, you cannot be a gardening professional, but you have to be an engineer, because otherwise you will not be able to decode all that stuff that it's on the labels. Well, unless you have to read the manual. Who will read manual? I mean, it's obvious. I'm not gonna put my fingers over here and the machine has only one switch. So, you know, use a manual for one switch, please. I mean, yes, you are obliged to put all that information, and you will definitely not be able to sell any product without providing information about that. But 40% duty cycle, if it's not, destroying your machine, if you cross that limit, it's a hook. It's a hook. You're being hooked on that, and it's a fraud. So this is the conclusion of the video. Now, if you are interested in the entire story of it and what needs to be fixed in order to make this machine working again, I invite you to watching the rest of the video. By the way, what those symbols really mean, you know, like, what is it? It's like a coffin, or you know, is this, well, this is nasty. Okay, never mind, bravo. Well, the thing is, I just want to show you in which places it's going to fail. And well, first of all, it is this what failed me from the beginning was this silicone rectifier, and of course it is installed on PCB on the other side with a small heatsink, but I decided to move it out of there because there is really doesn't seem to be much of an airflow in that part, and well, it has to be cooled a little bit, so I basically took it out and I, you know, put it with a double face on the outside of the engine where there is a little bit of access of the air from outside. And yeah, so that's one of those things. I replaced it with exactly substitute for that, you know, it's BTA 24600B. The first time I replaced it, I bought a proper one from a local electronics shop, and they said this is the original from ST, but it failed again. So I ordered a bunch of 10 for a price of I think €2 on eBay from China, and it works ever since. So the second thing is there will be definitely some issues with the PCB because it's unprotected from the dust, and the dust inside is, you know, it's everywhere on everything. The third thing that will definitely have issues is this power switch that it's a basically, you know, it's, what can I say? First of all, it has to have some water protection or dust protection from outside, so this is what they provided over here, but they didn't provide it on the inside where it's a very dusty atmosphere, and there are basically holes in that goes basically to this switches. It's a micro switch, you know. The other thing is it has you know 240 volts protection, even though it doesn't need, because it's basically a micro switch that switches the, you know, the contacts of the microcontroller over here, this tiny 8-pin device that maybe I should copy really the program somewhere, or maybe I will just buy a new machine, because, you know, that would be going too far with trying to fix it. And of course this rotary switch that if you are not careful at all, like you will definitely run with this fork into this, you will destroy it, you will break it, and it will stop to work. So if you can bypass all that stuff, then it's okay. Now the engine that didn't really have the smallest issues with the load that I put on it, and I think it will work even if I completely bypass this all PCB stuff. Nevertheless, I prefer to have it in place. Maybe a little word about this you know, this duty cycles, because there are two duty cycles of that, S6, S1. I know that they mean something, but I didn't really want it to go into details. Why should I? It seems to me that this 2000 watt S1 is, I think it means that it will go like 100% because there is nothing over here. So if it runs idle without applying any load on that, it should run, you know, it can run 24/7 and nothing will happen. But maybe I read it wrong. And if you apply the load, then it's 40%. So, you know, you need to error on that. But it can also mean that S6 basically overruns S1, and whatever will happen to the machine, this is the valid one, and that's it. Nevertheless, you shouldn't really just put 40% over here and assume that people will know exactly what that means. Well, of course they need to read manual, you know, and they have to you know, deal with all that dicks. What is it? It's a coffin or it's a door? Like, that means that you will come to the shop, they will say bravo, and you will try to show them your point. You know, they will not listen, you know, because the rake works one way. You will get, you know, harm, and you know, that's the danger of it. Too dangerous. It's too dangerous. And of course it's in German, so yeah, it's a German quality and German design and German build. Let's be grateful to Germans. Okay, so I just finished one job, and the machine of course always gets dirty, so I did cleaning, and this is something that I recommend you to do every time you do it, because this stuff, if it will fill up with gunk, it can really damage the machine. And yeah, there are some parts that will definitely get bad regardless if you take care of them or not. For example, those screws inside are already rusting. At least they seem like they are rusting. Maybe they are not. Maybe it's just gunk, but I'm not going to chisel it down. I don't think they are stainless. I think they are galvanized, just like all the others. And this is how the arbor assembly looks like. And here comes the disc. I'm just starting today. This is how much I already, let's say, debranched. And this is how much left. So this machine is going to have a pretty tough day today. It's a Einhell 230 volt machine. I bought it in Cyprus, 2000 watts, taking maximum 40 millimeters branches in diameter, which I don't need really. It also consists of this one over here, but I just took it off because pushing anything through this is quite cumbersome. And well, if I had more of a straight kind of branches, I would definitely keep it on, because this really provides some safety. Sometimes it bounces off and you know, you got a really nice kick with the branch, sometimes in the face, but I prefer that in front of trying to push all those things through this. You know, I have mostly here are almonds, so almonds are pretty tough and very curvy, so I really do not go above, let's say, 15 millimeters, because most of that I'm going to use as a fuel for the, and that's it. The rest of it, it will be, I presume, much easier to burn. So if you just want to get rid of it, then this machine is not really for you. But I really have some uses for the wood chips, and I want to keep the wood chips for other purposes. So that's why I decided that this machine would be very useful for us. And okay, so this is one bag. It took 11 minutes and yeah, above those two situations or three situations that you could observe there, one time only happened that the blade stopped. Basically one of those rather thicker branches wedged itself between the blade and the casing. There's a piece of maybe later we'll look inside. Here is a piece of zinc like a element around it, and it went between the two surfaces, so the blade stopped. And when it stopped, there must be some sort of overcurrent protection or something like that. It automatically switched off the switch over here. It cut off the electricity, and you know, it prevented engine from burning. Okay, the cubic meter is almost done. I think I'm gonna do two more batches, and I will call it a day. Basically I got rid of this big heap over here, but everything else is in its place. That means I will have at least 2 cubic meters more of you know, wood chips. So before it will get darker and we will not have so much light and good conditions for video, I will just give you my conclusions on that. Would I recommend it? And yes. Would I recommend it for everybody? No. It all depends on what you are doing. I mean, if you have a tiny little garden, like few maybe dozen square meters, just a couple of trees, you don't need that. Really, it's too much. It's too much power. Would I recommend it for someone with that amount of work every year? No, it's really not enough. Would be if we had this part installed on a clips, because this is very useful for thicker branches. I would not risk the same job with branches like, you know, this and upwards, because few times when the branch got caught in the blade and it rapidly moves towards here, it really has a capability of breaking your finger over here. You know, you don't need to put your hands inside to get injured, but that's one of my things. So if this could be installed on the clips, then you can take it off and install a funnel on the top, or even better, power feed. Too much, I know. That would be perfect. You know, then would be, you know. But even, let's say, for the injection molding designer who designed this form over here, I also have a little tip. You know, few times, actually more than few times, branches get catched over here. They get basically between the plastic and the metal. You know, there is too much flex over here. I don't know if you can see what I mean. If I push over here, this is flexing, and much too often this basically gets stopped, and it really pisses me off. Probably it just requires one more rib. I will definitely need to fix it myself, but you know, I should not. Definitely I should not. So that's it. Now let's take a look on the blades itself. After this entire day of work, there was okay, no comment on that. This is how the blades look like. This is the cutting edge for today, and they seem to be still sharp. They still have a bite into it, and they are reversible, so after one side will get dull, you can always reverse them. So this is the part that caused me so much trouble. You see, it's unsupported on anything over here. This should have at least a rib. I need to insert something over here. Okay, so maybe a few words about now the accessories that comes with this device. Let's start with let's say the least useless. The least useless is the bag, even though it's useless, but it's still, let's say, okay. Why I mean it's useless is because after a day of work it already got holes into it, you know, and it just carry the stuff that comes out from the bottom, so nothing more than this. But you know, it's written on the box that this is free, you know, you get it free. Now another accessory is another least let's say less useless accessory is this push stick. Although I can see some use for it, it is basically made in a wrong way, meaning it's too short to reach the bottom to get to the blades. It's, you know, with the installed the top of it installed, it gets about to here, which few times before I get, you know, stuffed with leaves, and I really couldn't push them through with this one, and it's too long when you want to use it without this top part, you know. So really, bad idea. Now the absolute complete waste of energy, and something that is basically one of the greatest evil, meaning giving you a rubbish, is this one. It's basically a piece of rubbish. It's supposed to be a holder for your push stick, yeah, and this is the stupidest idea you can really have. It's there, yeah, and every time I would need to use it, I would need to bend down and go for it. This is stupid. This should always stay here, and when you get to the machine, you should take it out, push the stuff with the other hand, and then help yourself with push sticks. That's it. But since the push stick is too little to be too short, it isn't really helpful at all. Okay, I was about to end that video with a nice conclusion. I actually did, and it didn't really change, but well, there is some little detail that really pisses me off. As you can see, I'm trying to switch on the machine and it doesn't work. Now if I hit it on like that it's not aligned with the zinc alloy throat here, it starts. Okay, let's have a look inside, shall we? I really didn't want to do that, but well, this bloody rotary switch didn't stop to work, completely, so it started to act up at the end. So we have a chance to take a look inside. So what I can say is that I didn't expect a belt over here, but it's driven by the belt. The engine isn't so great, but I think it's good enough. But here you can see the crustiness of crustiness. How did this thing went through the quality control? Okay, let's have a look on some other stuff. The PCB over here, it's already covered with dust. I don't think it's good for it. And how is it installed over here? It seems that it's glued. Is there any chance we can take a look on that without destroying it? I don't think this is the best way you can do it. And this is only one day. Imagine that after a couple of months or years of using, and it looks like silicone controlled rectifier anyway. Wow. Okay, I need to take a look inside of this one. Okay, I hope you can see it. Something went terribly wrong with this one. As you can see, there is a piece that is broken basically already, and I'm not really sure how to fix it, because I'm not gonna give this back to them. It's pointless waiting months for a reparation. I would rather go over through those and disable all those safety features, but it's better to fix them and really have them in the place. So they basically works like that. This piece of sheet metal comes in here and it pushes, and it should be catched and flip this switch in here. And what could go wrong? I have no idea, but something went wrong with this one. There are also two springs that push this two plastic parts against each other. So I will try to reverse this one and try to use it on the other way, other direction, because the casing of dust is built to work with two direction. You know, this is the how it's facing right now, and I will use simply the other side of it. We will see. Now there are some interesting things going on here inside the you know, this plastic injection mold casing. What I mean by that, there are some places where a certain device is probably supposed to be installed, but they are not. There are places where some screws should be inserted, but they are not. The PCB is hanging here on a hot glue. Well, I followed the original design, you know. Design is German, proudly, you know, design in Germany. Qualität über alles, you know, Einhell for everybody. Well, they basically didn't follow the exact instruction, or maybe they did follow exact instructions of how this thing should be done, you know. Not every single thing we could blame on Germans, you know, but some of them definitely yes, even then someone else did it, you know. Well, in any case, I'm gonna put it together and use it for a couple of days.